All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A. I'm Alcia Rabel, Distribution and Educational Programming Associate at Frameline, and I'm so excited to be here with our guest. I mean, we just watched a documentary about you, so I don't know if you need to introduce yourself, but do you want to do a little introduction?
Yeah, my official name, stage name is Beverly Glenn Copeland. That's actually my official name. Folks call me Glenn, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you very much, and to have Warren interpreting, that's wonderful. So yeah, I'll see. I'm all ready to go. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, big thanks to Warren for interpreting. I'm seeing you down there. So I guess first I just wanted to ask kind of about the genesis of this project in general. Like, how did this documentary come about? Who had this idea? How did you make this contact? How did it happen?
One day in my email came a note from Posey Dixon, who is the filmmaker. And it just said, "Gee, I would love to talk with you. To just yak with you over email." And we proceeded to start a conversation in email. And then after we've been conversing for quite a while, actually, uh, Posey said, "Well, why don't we Skype or Zoom or something, right? And I went, "Oh, okay, that's a great idea." And her face came on our first, and I looked at it and I went, "Oh yeah, okay, I know this person. I understand this. I get this. Right? Yeah, totally trustworthy. Totally, yeah, totally, yeah, yeah." So that's how that happened. And then we just kept talking, and then one day she said, "Well, I'm just gonna fly to Canada on my own buck, right? A little bit of money, and I'm going to fly to Canada, and maybe we can just start filming." What? And so she did, and what you see and what you have seen or will see is that the result of that. Yeah.
I love just going off of kind of like the big inciting incident in kind of the second act of the documentary and the second act of your career, just how much of your life and how many opportunities come down to like emails coming out of the blue.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. It's a good thing I do check my email.
I was about to say most people don't even check their emails, and it actually makes me like conscious. I'm like, I gotta check my emails more because I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm in a different age category, and so for my age category, email revolutionary, folks, right? Whereas for you, you have so many different ways that you communicate. Email is kind of passe, right? So yeah, I get it. Yeah, but not for me. So that's good because they couldn't find me any other way. So I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on this. I wasn't on that, and blah 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 blah. So they had to get in touch with me via email. Yeah.
Going back to the production of the film, so once the project kind of started, was there like a pretty clear sense from the beginning what the story being told was, what it was going to look like, or did it kind of evolve over time? And did you learn anything about yourself, gain any new perspective, like from the process of telling this kind of story, like looking back at your life?
Okay, so the first part of that question is, I think Posey allowed this to evolve. I think she had an idea that she wanted to really explore my connection to a younger generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what that looked like, I don't think she really had any idea, and she literally just let that unfold. As far as what I learned about myself, well, I mean, you learn a lot of things every time you have to tell, somebody asks you a question that's about your life that you've not had to formally talk about or whatever in hardly any other circumstance. Um, yeah, you do. You learn about yourself, and you start to understand that your perspective is changing over time because memory is tricky anyway. I mean, they've got all kinds of, scientific various proofs that what we think
Right.
we remember is not necessarily, that what we're going to think we remember the next day about the very same thing. Right? So your interior is always informing what you're remembering. Your how you're changing and whatever. So yeah, it's quite interesting. How's that, Elsia? Does that answer that question?
No, that was a great answer.
Okay, very good.
And so you kind of touched on this, and so it's a good segue into something I wanted to talk about. Your habit of working with younger people, your connection with this younger audience,
Hmm.
the way you've stayed learning and taking risks and kind of prioritized staying learning and building this relationship between generations, and even the way this is kind of mirrored in your personal life, like the connection you build with your mother as you learn more about yourself and you're both kind of able to grow over the course of your lives, and just this theme of generational connection and always trying to like broaden the horizon. It was just really inspiring to me, and I kind of wanted to talk more about how that comes through in your work.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that the connection with generational connection in that way is how I grew up, and it's actually how we all of our societies functioned until relatively recently. So, but then this whole nuclear family thing started happening, which is not how we survived as humans through the ages, and I mean many ages, right? Because you needed the wisdom of the elders and the strength of the middle group, and then the enthusiasm of the really younger ones who were eager to learn. You needed all of that to ensure that we were going to continue to have a human line going forward. So really, I think it's more that I've just found an opportunity to return to what was natural for me and how I grew up, because I was very, very close to my fraternal grandmother, extremely close to my fraternal grandmother. And she was a sort of a person that encouraged me. I watched who she was, how she operated. She was North American indigenous, Slagi, it's called, the Cherokee. The people call themselves Slagi, but we know them as Cherokee. And she'd grown up that way, and she was very, very wise and very close to the earth, very close to the earth. I mean, I know my grandmother just to go out with a shotgun and bring back dinner. This is like in the 1950s, folks, that it was not happening, right? So, right. So I would, you know, uh, she was a great teacher to me, and my parents were great teachers for me. And then when I look at today's, how we live today, I just know that we need each other,
Mm.
because I'm learning from youth incredibly, constantly. I'm learning from your generation, I'll say it, and I'm learning from, as you mentioned, the generation below you, or the ones who are blessing out, world, heads of state around the world at the age of 12. La 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 la. So it's like I'm learning, yes. And we need to learn throughout our lives. We need to learn throughout our lives. When you stop learning, it's time to go to your next lifetime, from my perspective. Yeah. So I hope that answered it.
No, that was a really great answer. I'm loving this conversation, and yeah, we had a conversation before the Q&A, kind of about how there's already like generations that are so leagues beyond even where like any of us are out there. And yeah, it's just so inspiring.
Yeah.
A little intimidating, but in a good way.
In a good way. We're advancing as humans. We are growing as humans, emotionally, and in terms of our understanding of our connection to each other, right? And we always had that before, but now we're on a world level. And before, our connection was with our tribe immediately, and now we understand, that the tribe is actually the entire world. And that if we don't get it together, this tribe will be no longer. So, and I'm very hopeful that we will be able to continue way past me leaving this earth, that the generations will continue learning and figuring things out, because we have to. And I know we will. It's just that anything that's good, really good, this is what I've learned as in my Buddhist studies. When something goes really, really, really dark or difficult, or is an incredible struggle, it's heralding. It's letting you know that something amazing is on the way. It's just like, it's to get prepared for what's amazing. You've got to go through what's difficult and painful, because the really amazing things, I don't know, they don't show up if you're just kind of like going, la la la, everything's fine. I don't need to learn anything. I don't need to do any emotional work. I don't need to, to grow myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we really grow in whatever way is important, then the gifts of the universe really are able to come to us, right? But when we don't, they just kind of go to somebody else. Yeah. Okay, so we don't have to take that. I don't want anybody to get too discouraged. The most important thing is that, when what's that saying that, when you're on the ground, there's only one way up?
Very true.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, right? And the muscles that you create from pushing yourself up are really yours. Is it really a part of you becoming a stronger person? Yeah. There's so many examples of that. I mean, I read about people's stories all the time, and I'm going like, whoa, how did they do that? How look at the obstacles that they overcame, and it's like, mine are just like little minor things, relatively speaking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess to keep things in kind of the slightly metaphysical realm we've been touching on, music seems like such an intuitive process for you, and you reference that everything you make, you kind of surrender yourself to it, and then you feel like you end up with this product that is beyond your capacity. And that's just such an interesting concept to me. And so I wonder if you could elaborate on that, and kind of where do you feel this energy is coming from? What do you feel
Okay.
when you create these things that are, as you say, beyond your capacity?
Yeah. Okay, so I have something that I call the Universal Broadcasting System. That's my name for it. UBS for short. And the Universal Broadcasting System, from my perspective, is constantly broadcasting to all of us. And but what it broadcasts is tailored to your particular wavelength, to what it is that it is your gift to give to the world, right? Right. Plus all the emotional things that we need to learn, right? It's tailored totally to us, right? Individually. So I came into this world almost singing, according to my mother and my father. My mother said that when I was like 5 months and I couldn't speak at all yet, if they turned on the radio, I would start to hum, right? So obviously I came in with that talent and that kind of ray, right? So how is it going to send information to me? It's going to send information to me through that, right? So when that information comes through, I race and try to put it down. And then I will work on it a little bit and try not to overwork it so that it remains pretty pure what it is. But it's always astonishing to me because even though I studied classical music, um, European classical music, because there's lots of classical music, but European classical music, and learned how to write things down on staff paper and learned all about structures of chords and on and on and on. Once I put down what it is that has come to me, I look at it and it's like, huh? like, like, okay, I don't even know how I got from this chord to that chord in some cases, or this melody. Where did this melody come from? Where did this concept and these words? It's like they come. Sometimes they come with it, but inevitably, when I start to try to figure out what the lyrics are, there's only one set of lyrics that works with it. It's like it can't go anywhere but this one place, right? And I just look at it and I'm stunned. And often once I put it down on the staff paper, I can't play it back easily. It's like I'm going uh what is that? It's very funny, you know. It's like it's very humbling. Yes, right. Mm.
It's always fun to feel like you've humbled yourself.
Well, you know, yeah, it's some aspect of me is like laughing its head off. It's like, you know, yeah, no, your ego's not going to get any charge from this because you really can't, you don't even really know what it is, and you know, good anyway, whatever. And the interesting thing is that most of my really close friends are phenomenal visual artists. And I'm phenomenal visual artists. They all say the same thing. They all say that that you know that sure they go to the their canvases and they work their art in the sense of keeping your skill set together. I mean,
Right.
piano, and I keep my skill set together as best I can. But they say inevitably when something amazing, when they look at some piece of work and they look at it and they think, okay, that was channeled. That's what they all say.
Mm.
So it's very interesting.
Well, I think it's a testament to kind of the beyondness of your work that it's always been so kind of not just out of time, but often very ahead of its time. And especially Keyboard Fantasies, the album in particular, you listen to that and look at the year it came out, and you can just hear so much of that in music from like the late 2010s. And so it took 30 years for music to catch up to the wavelengths you were on at that time. And
Yeah, go ahead.
oh,
Go.
no, anything you want to say, that's
No, but I don't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
oh no, it just kind of made me, I wanted to know kind of, did you have a sense of it being ahead of its time when you were making Keyboard Fantasies? And at what point did you kind of start noticing that these ideas that you had worked with so long ago were starting to become like almost mainstream and like codified into the music landscape?
Well, okay, I really never thought about any of it because I've always since child I was exposed to so much music in childhood, and then as a result of studying classical music, and in my childhood I listened to music from all over the world. Um, I went into a period of silence, which has lasted most of the years from the time I was about 27 or 28 on. Um, I've I've lived in silence most of the time, except every once in a while something will come to me. Some music will find its way to me, then and I'll listen to it and just flip out. And it's so absolutely beautiful or whatever. But so I wasn't really aware of what was going on in the world musically. all I knew at the time was that this computer that had started to exist, which for me was, I was always fascinated by what science called the birth of silicon life. Because science has always said that as far as they knew, at least at the time when I was reading about it, that life in the universe was based either on carbon or on silicon.
Hmm.
Very interesting. So, I mean, we haven't produced silicon life yet, but we are experimenting with silicon. And these computers are the beginning of those experiments. And I was fascinated by what they could do. And eventually, they turned into musical, software and musical instruments and all of those things. And I just wanted to be able to explore the world that they offered to me,
Hmm.
which, basically was that I couldn't afford to have an orchestra,
Right.
afford to have a really fine violinist or whatever. Not that they have like fine violinists,
Right.
but they have come to that point now. So, well, not really, but I mean, they've come to within like 90% of what a really fine violinist would sound like. I mean, the other 10%, you cannot, nothing could produce that except a fine violinist.
Right.
But it offered me that option. It offered me the option to explore a palette of sounds that I otherwise would have no opportunity to explore, or would not be available to me. And computers were also able to make sounds that are not of this world.
Right.
That from my perspective is like the universe talking. Like, oh, listen to that. What does a star sounds like, whoa. Anyway, so I was so excited about that. It was only later, in years later, that I realized there were other people who were doing that at the same time, but they, like myself, were, quote, ahead of time in terms of there being enough people to have an interest in that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And are you listening to anyone right now? I'm kind of curious where your like mind is musically at this moment.
Oh yeah. I dance almost every day.
Um,
The music that I'm listening to is a combination of many things. Right now, I'm listening a lot to Kelsey Lu.
mhm.
I'm listening a lot to Fatima Al. I don't want to say her last name wrong. Wait a minute. I'm just going to make sure. Fatima Al Qadiri. I think.
Yeah.
Qadiri. Yeah. Fatima Al Qadiri. I'm listening to a lot of that. I'm playing one of what's his name? I have a terrible time with names. Hold on. So I'm gonna move you around here so that I can bring this up, and I don't think this will cause you to disappear. Okay, because I really want to be able to say this. No, that's not it. Wrong. Hold on. I should just say I'm listening to a lot of things. And I okay, here we go. Okay. I am listening to a woman called Laila Bialy. Oh, absolutely. All of these people are geniuses. Laila Bialy, I mean, she's a pianist. She's a piano genius. She sings beautifully. She can play any kind of thing. She will occasionally, her own compositions are amazing as jazz, but she does things that are not jazz. She covers other people's stuff, and it's like you never heard them before. So yeah, Laila Bialy. I'm also listening to Sting and dancing to Sting. He has a number of songs that knock me out on his, what is it? Which one of his? Mercury Falling album? My. And I dare not listen to any other Sting, because then I know I won't have any time to do anything else in my life. Right. And I'm listening to a woman who plays Bach like I have never ever heard it played. Marta, what's her last name? Oh, Marta. mm, mm. Oh, this is what happens when you get my age, folks. Get ready for this. It's really kind of like, okay, fine. My wife, my beloved wife, when she first met me, she thought, oh, the poor guy has no memory whatsoever, right? Now it's 12 years, 13 years later, and she's going, oh, I can't remember anything. It's totally funny. Yeah, anyway, this woman, Marta something, forgive me, Marta. She's been around for many, many years. She plays Bach like I've never heard. Bach always sounded a bit like I couldn't feel any emotion from it. She's the only person that I have ever heard who plays Bach emotionally, and it's like you've never ever heard it. For those of you who like classical music, yeah, just put in the first name, Marta Algerich. That's it, Marta Algerich. Unbelievable. Yeah, and there's probably a whole bunch of other people that I listen to too. Yeah, but I just can't think of who they are at the moment.
I knew we'd get a bunch of amazing recommendations off that question, so I'm glad I asked.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could literally keep talking to you all afternoon, but I think we're supposed to wrap up pretty soon. So I'll close by asking you about the new album you have coming out, kind of coinciding with this movie playing at Frameline, coincidentally enough.
Yes, Transmissions. Yes, the Transmissions is a brief look through the music that's been coming to me, some of which has been on other albums, some of which has never been heard, even though they were written many, many, many years ago, and one of which was written just recently, relatively recently. It's quite fascinating. Yeah, it's very interesting to know that oh, is that what I sounded like then? Oh, wow, that's interesting, right? Because I don't listen to my own music, yeah, I'm always in the present, moving to the future, right? Whatever I was doing now, I'm doing it now, and tomorrow I may be doing something entirely different, and whatever I was doing yesterday is like at that point it's put in the closet and yeah, right, yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure everyone who's here with us is really looking forward to it too. So we're really glad to be hosting this film during its release.
Well, thank you so much, and I really enjoyed speaking with you, Alcia.
I've enjoyed speaking with you so much. I'm such a big fan, and I'm so glad you were able to be here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody that helped to make this program happen. I'm sorry that that Posey couldn't be with us here today, but I can't speak about her process very much because I'm not a filmmaker, but you can see the film so you'll understand how brilliant it is. And thank you, Warren, for your interpretation.
Well, all right. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the festival. Bye-bye.
Bye.